first heard about Pentacle from Tom Ulmer, who was my best friend in high school. And he had done a show. He did Life with Father at Pentacle when he was a boy. And we were in high school. They were doing the musical The Most Happy Fella. And Tom knew that I sang. And I had done some shows. I mean, in grade, junior high mostly. I played the Easter Bunny in grade school, but, it was a small part. Um, and he said, "Why don't you come out with me and we'll audition for this play?" So I did, and it was real easy because they needed a lot of people because Most Happy Fella is a big show. So they cast a bunch of us kids. So I have really no idea how artistically good the show was, but we had a great time. The theater was not secure then because there wasn't really much of anything out there to steal. The light booth was open and open to the audience, and so Tom and I would go out to the theater just because we adored it so much. We had those big doors down in the lobby, but they had little chains on them with a ring on the bottom, so you could stick a hanger through the doors and pull on that little chain, and it would open the doors for you. So, so we used to go out there and just hang out because we were like, "Oh, it's Pentacle Theater. We're having such a good time." That was in 1968. I left for Utah, the University of Utah, in 1970 after we graduated. I came back and did The Music Man with Dick Bond playing Harold Hill in 1971, and then I moved back to Oregon from Utah in 1978. And again, Tom got me back involved with Pentacle. He and Yvonne Ulmer and Ken Collins were directing Peter Pan, and he asked me if I would come and work on the crew. And so he got me back involved with Pentacle, and the rest is history. Well, I auditioned for Most Happy Fella. I also auditioned for Music Man. It was just chorus, so I wasn't expecting a lead or anything. The first actual big audition and big show for me would have been 1971, Fiddler on the Roof. Madison Vick was the director. Wayne Ballantyne played Tevye. Wayne was very young, but Wayne was such an exceptional actor that he did a really, really great job. I think that's the only time I was ever on stage with Wayne. But I played Hoddle. I did Company after that with Wayne. That was in 1978. 10 years after playing Hoddle and Fiddler on the Roof the first time, the theater was doing Fiddler on the Roof again, directed by Larry Stevens. I played Hoddle again. In 1971, when I played her, I was 20. And in 81, I was 30. So I wasn't quite too over the hill to play her. It's a great role. And the best thing about that show really was it was the year before my mom died. And my mom played Golda in that Fiddler. So she and I were able to be in that together as leads. And it was a really special, special time. I've directed 7. I've assistant directed 5. In terms of both performance and tech on a specific show, probably a little over 60. I've been fortunate enough to do 2 of those roles twice. One, of course, is Rose in Gypsy, which is, let's face it, one of the best roles ever for a woman. You just can't beat it. The book is fantastic. The music is wonderful. It's a real showcase for that character. It has soft songs. It has belt. It has everything. It's like, to me, the perfect musical Gypsy, I think. And I have to say, just having had the opportunity a couple of years ago to redo Fräulein Schneider in Cabaret, I have to say that she would be really a sentimental favorite because I just love that character. I love Cabaret. It's a fabulous show, but Fräulein Schneider and Herr Schultz are really the heart of that show, and I love her. She's funny and sad, and it's really a great role. So those two would be my favorites. I would like to be in, and I don't care really what role because they're all sort of they're all featured roles. Is Follies. Follies has such great material and great material for older broads. I'm Still Here, Broadway Baby. I mean, it has every time you turn around, there's another showstopper. But what a great show! I love Sondheim, and that maybe is my favorite of the Sondheim repertoire. After Company, of course, I love Company, but Follies is a fantastic show. And the other, a show that just moved me more than I could imagine seeing it in New York, is Grey Gardens. It's a fantastic musical. I was so incredibly moved by it. I couldn't believe it. So I would love to be in that. Well, they're all pretty different. um, uh, I did two of the Neil Simon trilogy. I did Brighton Beach Memoirs, and Robert Herzog did Biloxi Blues. I just wasn't particularly interested in directing that one, but I did come back and direct the third one, Broadway Bound, because I loved those plays. I love Neil Simon. I also directed the Philadelphia Story, which was always a favorite of mine. Ken Collins did the set. It was gorgeous. It was an outdoor patio with white wicker furniture and big French doors, and I mean, it was a Ken Collins set. I don't know that those shows really inspired me. I liked them, and they were easy to interpret and put together. But I think my all-time favorite directing experience was Lips Together, Teeth Apart by Terrence McNally. I think it's the best work I've ever done. I just had such a feel for that script. It just all came together for me. I loved that experience. That was really my favorite. It's a little on the adult language side. So in 1995, we'd have people leave, and we got not very small houses, but I was so very proud of that show. I just felt so good about that particular show. And then I didn't direct again until 2002. In the early days, and really early days, because 68, they didn't even build the theater out in the country until, oh, I want to say maybe even 64 or something like that. So that was a really dedicated small group of people that really wanted something badly and got it. You have to admire that. That must have been really hard to do at that time, to get everybody out there and, hey, let's build a theater, especially one as lovely as the one that we have, although there have been changes made to it over the years. I think that kind of dedication went on for a very long time into the 80s. Younger people like me and Pamela and Ken Hermans, Ken Collins, Tom Ulmer, we eventually started getting more involved in the actual running of the theater. And then, of course, we hired staff that made it easier on people too. But I think there's just I don't know how to explain it either. There's just a special feeling about this group. Mostly people really try to connect and develop friendships. I've developed friendships on every show I've ever done. I think Jo Dodge has been a big part of that because she's such a flag waver for Pentacle, and she's had her class since the 80s. And I think she's probably brought in more people than we could count to get involved with Pentacle and get involved in a lot of them to get involved in a big way. It's always surprising to me. It was always surprising to me when I worked for the theater that people had never heard of us. Pentacle Theater, what's that? I'm like, wow, where have you been living? But we weren't big advertisers, and word of mouth goes a long way. But Salem's a big city, and I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. But trying to describe Pentacle, of course, you talk about the beautiful physical setting. You got to come out and see the theater. It's gorgeous. You'll love it. You'll fall in love. And we do high quality shows. I think that one would be surprised at how much talent we really have here in this area. And I'm talking really good talent. I don't know if you could take it to Broadway, but you could take it off Broadway. It's going to vary because everybody is volunteer. But I think we have been trying to hold to a pretty high standard. I think people will step up to the plate to do what's needed. If I'm a director and we need a certain show on the season that we think can do really well, but that's not at all the kind of show that I would ever want to be involved in, well, step up because we need people to do that. Not just directing, but that's just an example. But it's a good one. We're going to have to bite the bullet a little bit and take one for the team. Exactly. Yeah. I've talked to people about changing things, and they're willing to do anything. Yes, I'm willing to do that. And, in my role as president, I've talked to a lot of people about things, and most everybody has been incredibly cooperative and kind. I think there's a feeling now of people trying to come together who can't come together. And when we're able to come together, I think we can come together in a big way. Well, we don't have a theater without volunteers. It sort of literally means everything from people who volunteer 3 years of their life to serve on a board, I think is astounding, to all of our hospitality guild members, of which there are very, very, I'm surprised at how many there are. When we got those lists as board members to make some phone calls to people to check on them and see if they were all right, that hospitality list was giant. And I talked to some of those people, and they just love volunteering for Pentacle. It's not a big commitment to do that. It's a big commitment to do a show. If you do a show, you get the love. You get the camaraderie of the cast and the luxury of being able to collaborate, and then the supreme luxury of being able to share that with an audience and be applauded for it. I mean, that's a wonderful thing. But I think all of our volunteers, in whatever they do, if they're volunteer costumers, if they're volunteer lighting designers, if they're volunteer sound, stage managers, all on up, I think there's value to everyone in all of those positions, because either the chair people of those committees or just the committees themselves create that for themselves, and they feel appreciated. I know we try to appreciate and celebrate our volunteers at least a couple of times a year specifically. And hopefully everyone is doing that all through the year during shows. I think we're really, really fortunate. being president of the theater this year was not at all what I expected when I said yes. It started out tough and it hasn't gotten any easier. And I know everyone is going through the same things, but the importance of the arts, I think the arts is getting hit so badly with this because of mostly because of venues and crowd size. It's really disheartening to have to cancel shows that people have worked really hard on, and it's been terribly difficult to try to make those decisions this year. And we really don't know what's going to happen even next year. And even when we come back, I'm not sure how all of this is going to change things. Our organization's going to have to start to try to reinvent themselves a bit. Is that a good thing? Is it a good time for organizations to maybe start reimagining what their role is in the community and how they can evolve from what's happening, which is so horrible? Or does it just go back to status quo, or what? I think there's some big challenges ahead for particularly theater companies. But I think just keeping our theater and the other theaters in town and the Salem Pops Orchestra and any arts organization who is unable to make money now because they can't perform, just keep them top of mind. Not that you don't necessarily have to donate money or huge amounts of money or even any money. Just remember that those things are important so that when we get back to all being able to share again, that we have a place to do that. And we'll work really hard to make that happen as hard as we can. So hang in with us if you would. Do you know the Philadelphia story? There's a scene where they're all out in the garden. Her mother and Tracy's mother, her sister, her little sister, her father, her uncle, the photographer, who was Nancy Mullen, by the way, and the reporter was Larry Roach. And they're all talking about Dexter. And he's supposed to be arriving. So we're chatting away, talking about Dexter, and I'm in the audience, the director. And all of a sudden, there's his cue. And where's Dexter? Okay, so these people, you wonder what goes through their heads. Some people can pull out of that and come up with at least something coherent. These people went into some weird dimension talking about stuff that was like, what? And all of a sudden I hear, because I'm over by where the stairs are in the dressing room, I hear and then I hear running all the way around the deck because his entrance is over there, and in comes Dexter. It's like, oh my God, what just happened to my show?